Here and now, the dawn of the Honk. I am your host, Moira Legier. Here and now, like conjoined twins fused together at the wrists, sharing the same pounding pulse and trembling beat of neo-neuroticism disguised as strength and courage, celestial government bodies align with ridiculous demands, overreaching in their moral grandstanding and demands for conformity in thought as well as speech. Vast powers claiming to fight the powers that be have become the powers that be. The autocratic, hypertense authority whom they purport to fight, whose soul's sole purpose is demanding suppression of speech and of thought and of ideas, whose fluctuating neural patterns viewed through macroscopic histrionics are considered wishy-washy hate speech by control freaks, governed not by some concrete idea or concrete concern for anything but using power for using power, might for might, submission for submission. Beneath the glowing bulbous ball of vibrational intensity that is the harlot sun of necromantic glee and splendor, all voices align in speculative speculation to demand recognition of them and theirs and is and isn't. Which is to say, what hate we utter is not hate, for we hate only those who hate, and we are the ones who define what is or is not hate. Genius reconstruction of language, mutable, undefinable, flat on its face, donkey-punched ridiculous. Language redefined to mean and to say not what the speaker says, but what the listener claims is said instead. That overreach, so preposterous as to assume the listener being capable of mind reading and, in reading minds, attributing purpose and intent which was not there and is not there, yet will be created to be there by powers falsely trembling from some manufactured threat to their own safety, governed not by their mollycoddled mannerisms or hysterical demands for safety bubbles, but governed by their lust for might and power and complete and utter domination. Lost now beneath the waning waxen moon of hard-spun, lie-fueled gibberish, we see shades of doubt cast from pinnacles of learning. What used to be pillars of our world and worldly vision of thorough thought and knowledge, our academic splendor turned on its head and becoming lacademic lacademia, lecherous, leprous, treacherous centers for politicized nonsense and abhorrent hatred defined peculiarly as right, as proper, as truth and beauty and justice, whilst telling us, with straight-laced smiles and fractured grins, that there is no truth, there is no beauty, there is no justice, there is no anything, only a wide chasm of absolutely nothing. Nothing is true. Not even the aforementioned is true. Not even nothing is true. Hit me with your spasm stick, your trembling Greco-Roman tragedy, your best bipolar persona laid in chains from self-indulgent fantasies of being enslaved, and tell me, once again, that in order to be free, others must be denied their right to be free. Freedom is slavery. And to speak freely, one must suppress one's speech, so others shall be free from your tyranny of thoughts and mouthy vibrations hitting the wrong cosmic frequencies, so that we do not get the free, feeble freakouts. So we are hit with them old cosmic blues again, mama. Through this we falter. Through this we fall. And liberty dies to the thundering applause of those who do not think that they will ever put one toe over the line hastily drawn in the sand. A line whose position is not fixed, but will be moved back and forth at the feeble, whimsical will of those who wield the power to tell others which thought is proper, which speech is correct, which opinion is the only opinion one should hold. All our notions of liberty, of freedom, of emancipation from tyranny and horrid authority whose might and reach should never reach into our minds and thoughts and words and opinions, being buried 6 feet beneath the plasticine mud and soil of our synthetic blocky buildings, our microchip buildings whose shoulders carry the blunt and brute force made ready to suppress our speech for daring to voice opposition to nonsensical demands for governed speech and thoughts. For blind and herded conformity in packs clad in grey, whose thoughts are grey, whose skin is grey, whose life and outlook is grey and fragmented, rupturing, as all the world and all its people become soulless, monotonous, herded into compliance under the letter of the law demanding that you shall not speak this, think this, feel this, opine this. or, for lack of law or lack of letters, subjected to mob rule demanding the same, all the while the law and the letters and the letter of the law looks the other way as the pack closes in on you, trampling you beneath their boots or hollow television screens, demanding you become one of them. To think like them, to speak like them, to act like them, to hold the same opinions as them, or to be cast away from underneath the warming glow of our newfound lack of journalistic integrity, whose sole purpose is to shame wrongthink in the obsessive, micro-aggressive lingo of our day and age. In our folly, we accept. In our folly, we submit. In our folly, we bend our heads and we dare not object to the culling of our minds and thoughts through incremental steps. Today, the nonconformists. Tomorrow, the world. Our flip-flopping, slippery slide into tyranny is packaged as beauty and justice, as safety and non-harm to all. Forgetting, in the moment and by design, the harm done to those who wish to voice opposition when, beneath our feet, the ground is eroding and our madness is evolving into mutually assured societal suicide. Pretending safety, pretending justice, pretending freedom from harm, like children playing God. And all who do not fear, who cheer it on, who partake in creating laws to govern speech and regulate thought, are lost in their own moral arrogance, thinking that their being, that their soul, that their moral integrity is above and beyond reproach, and that they will never suffer the fate of those whose life they will attempt to ruin for the crime of having a wrong thought, of holding opinions and using words that is painted as wrong, doubly and triply so. Implementing laws limiting speech will damage one and all, even those too arrogant to see that they themselves are not the clean paragons of virtue they wish themselves to be. And yet, this is the point we are at. This is the cosmic overreach drawn from governmental decree. Do not say this, but do say that. In order for all to feel safe, no one should feel safe to speak their mind on certain topics judged controversial by supposedly oppressed minorities who, despite being oppressed, wields the power to tell others what to say, what not to say, how to say it and how not to say it. It is Pythonesque absurdity, over-analyzed Dadaist irrationality, to think that I should live to see the collapse of truth, of beauty, of sanity, to see the world around me tumble into decadence, into hedonistic tunnel vision and a loss of self so perplexingly selfish as to be painted as selflessness, despite being nothing but personal grievances amplified to the umpteenth degree and painted with strobe light effect as issues affecting all of whichever identity group one represents, or claim to represent, through tribal pipe dreams like echoes of ages past, mirroring the dawn of mankind in its simplicity. My tribe good, your tribe bad. Maniacally, we accept. We impose limits on speech, on words, on sentence structure. We allow a small group of people to reinvent language, deciding, through miraculous revelations, which words mean what, which words are accepted words and which are not, which words are deemed offensive and which words are fully acceptable despite being offensive in nature and by design. Despite being language created to shame and to blame one group of people, one tribe if you will, the non-dominant tribe in our kaleidoscope cultures. Mansplaining, man-spreading, man-corrupting, man-slamming, toxic masculinity, fragile masculinity, testosterone poisoning. I have no interest in banning these terms, these words, this flaccid and divisive terminology. It is interesting, however, to note that the push to get rid of gendered words and gendered terminology does not include words and terms made for the sole purpose of shaming and blaming men. It is almost as though one would be inclined to believe that the notion is not equality for all, but suppression of thoughts, words, sentences and notions that could hurt the feelings of one of the myriad protected tribes, while allowing for ever more sentiments designed to attack that one tribe who is, oddly enough, considered to be the dominant tribe, despite all other tribes being granted special protection, which, in turn, begs the question, If all tribes but one are protected, what does that really tell us of the one tribe that is not protected? When you get right down to it, when you cut through the fluff and the fancy and grind your way down to the bone, it becomes clear that if all tribes and all people and all groups of people are supposed to be safe from having their feelings hurt by people who present opinions or facts they don't like, nothing will be spoken in the end. No matter what one says, no matter how benign, no matter how inoffensive and tame and common sense it is, someone, somewhere, will take offense to it. And if all feelings are to be considered holy and as such not to be hurt, in the name and guise and formal dress of the ever-fluctuating word equality, all must be protected from it, and so all speech must be curtailed, all sentiments destroyed, all thoughts devoid of meaning, all sentences synthetic, pre-programmed and pre-approved by a mighty force who claims to know, with absolute certainty, what is or is not offensive, what is or is not meant by one sentence or one quietly whispered word. It seems that more and more are trapped within their own reality bubbles, in their own echo chambers, in their own minds and in their own world, to such an extent that the possibility that they might in fact be wrong does not ever enter through the tightly sealed doorways of their mirror-mazed minds. Confirmation bias is a very real thing, and it is something we all partake in. Confirming what one already knows to be true feels good. I think this is a very human thing, a very normal thing, a very fairly harmless thing, in fact, as long as the mind is open enough to accept evidence to the contrary and alter one's view of the world accordingly. Emotion will always play a part in our lives. I don't think there is any way around this. Feelings should never, however, take precedence over facts. A paranoid schizophrenic may feel, may know with all their heart and bonesaw mind that the pizza van parked outside, delivering pizza to their neighbor, is really yet another government goon spying on them, another piece in the conspiracy designed to destroy them completely, a conspiracy that has been going on forever and ever. That they feel this to be true does not make it true, and to act as though it is true is giving credence to their delusion, which does not heal them, but rather harms them immensely. Ideas rise, or they fall, depending on their merit, and to suppress or attempt to suppress the ideas of people whom one is in disagreement with does nothing but prove to one and all that one's own ideas have no legs to stand on. This is how tyranny is born. This is how authoritarianism, totalitarianism, madness and brutality keep a stranglehold on its power, by crushing underfoot all who dare to voice opposition. History is riddled with this atrocious behavior, these acts of severe control, this barbarism clothed as civility, these demands for conformity of thought, of speech, of conduct, of uniformity of ideology. You are either with us, or you are an enemy of the state. And if you are an enemy of the state will get you. And what is the state but a body of people frightened that they will get the same treatment that you get if they don't conform and sync with the tribe, killing you with egotistical selflessness for the good of it all? It frightens me more than it saddens me, though it absolutely does both, to see the world we inhabit sink into this kind of behavior, this kind of ever-increasing demand for censorship and control of speech, of words, of opinions. It should be frightening to anyone who wishes to be at liberty to express themselves, and I should think this would be anyone, that it is not only social media mobs and the odd lunatic who demand this, but politicians and government implementing laws unironically labeled hate speech so loosely defined that they can get you for anything and nothing at all. Particularly frightening is it that these laws are only protecting certain groups of people, making them by definition privileged and under special protection by law. How this is supposed to reflect equality, I have no idea. But of course, those who champion it do, and so bring forth the same old nonsense about power structures and institutional this and that, making it impossible to discriminate against a certain tribe because yada yada and the structure and so such and so forth and so on ad infinitum. Strings of words like sausages on a string, fluff and filler with no real substance and no real meat. But it sure as hell sounds good, looks good, makes sense from a distance if one squints and has the sun in one's eyes. Liberty and freedom dies by increments, a slow and painful death, to the sound of applause and roaring cheers. And those who do not wish to applaud, who do not wish to cheer, can do nothing but honk their noses once or twice and laugh like mad clowns trapped in a maze with nowhere to run as the world burns around them. Honk. Fucking honk. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this ramble as well as my other ramblings. Please consider sharing, liking, subscribing and all that jazz. That would help the message, such as it is, be manspread far and wide. Take a look at the links down below as well, if you please. Catch you next time.